Welcome back to the deep dive. We're about to embark on quite a journey today. We're plunging into this stack of material you've shared with us.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff looking at these really ancient mythological characters.
Exactly. Figures from all over the globe whose stories, well, they still really resonate, don't they?
They absolutely do. And what's interesting here is how you get these unexpected connections popping up.
Between cultures that you'd think were, completely separate. Worlds apart.
Mm-hmm. And then you have these modern theories trying to explain it all, sometimes in pretty radical ways.
Absolutely. So today, our deep dive is focusing on some key characters from Hindu mythology, and we're setting them alongside figures from ancient Mesopotamia, specifically the Anunnaki.
But we're not just stopping at the traditional stories. The material you sent takes us further.
Right, into these modern theories that propose, some pretty surprising links between these traditions. Often it's through this lens of ancient visitors from space.
It is. It's definitely a topic that means wading through different layers of interpretation. You've got the deeply held traditional beliefs.
Then the historical scholarship, the archaeology.
Exactly. And then you have these, let's say, highly speculative, unconventional claims.
So we'll be looking at the traditional accounts, what the myths actually say. We'll look at the hard evidence, historical proof of contact between these places.
And then we get into the claims of these alternative theories. But it's important we also look at the critical perspectives, right? The experts who challenge those alternative ideas.
Definitely. Our mission here is really to guide you through all this material, help you unpack the key details, understand the different ways this ancient information gets interpreted. Because this deep dive, it's custom built for you based on what you sent us.
It promises to be quite the exploration myth, history, and some really out there speculation.
Before we properly dive in, I just want to take a moment. This deep dive is a tribute to my friend and mentor, Ram Prakash.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, his curiosity, his wisdom, it definitely inspired this kind of exploration, looking into ancient mysteries and all these diverse viewpoints.
That's a very fitting tribute, especially for tackling material this rich, this complex, and sometimes, let's be honest, pretty challenging.
Okay then, let's start unpacking. We should probably begin by introducing some of the main figures from these two ancient worlds, looking at them just through their traditional mythological roles first.
That makes sense. These are figures central to the faith and culture of millions, maybe billions of people over thousands of years. Understanding how they're traditionally seen is, it's crucial before we look at other ways of seeing them.
Okay, first up, from Hindu mythology, we encounter the powerful and I'd say enigmatic Lord Shiva.
He's part of that primary trinity, the Trimurti, alongside Brahma, the creator, and Vishnu, the preserver.
Right. And while Brahma creates and Vishnu maintains, Shiva is often known as the destroyer, the force that ends cycles.
But the material makes it really clear his nature is much more complicated than just destroyer. It's full of paradoxes.
How so?
Well, he's not just destruction. He's deeply associated with austerity, with intense meditation, asceticism, self-discipline.
And he lives in these solitary places, right? Like the Himalayas or even cremation grounds.
Exactly, which is such a striking image, isn't it? A major god hanging out in places associated with death and transcendence. It's a big contrast to, say, gods living in golden palaces.
Definitely not your typical divine ruler setup.
And a key part of his worship really highlights this complexity. While he does have human-like forms, he's most often worshipped as the lingam.
Which is that sort of pillar or oval shape.
Aniconic, right. Yep. Precisely. It represents his procreative power, his regenerative force. It connects to that whole cycle destruction, clearing the way for new creation. It's about potentiality.
The material also mentions he has all these different aspects or forms. It lists things like Agora, Ishana.
Right. Agora is that fierce, sometimes terrifying ascetic form linked to the cremation grounds. Ishana is often tied to the Shivalingam itself, representing rulership, auspiciousness.
Then there's Tat Purush, which is described as his meditative cosmic side.
And Varnadeva, who's eternally auspicious, beautiful, the protector of cosmic order. And Satyajat, or Brother Rudra, the ancient, sometimes quite wrathful form, linked to instant creation or manifestation.
Wow. So he really embodies a huge range. He isn't just one type of god at all.
It points to a really deep theological idea, doesn't it? That divinity encompasses opposites. And the material mentions the Shivpuran Katha, these large-scale narrations of Shiva's stories.
Suggesting they're really important for spiritual awareness.
Absolutely. For guiding people towards understanding Dharma, righteous living, through these powerful narratives.
Okay, so moving from Shiva, let's talk about goddess Lakshmi.
Ah, Lakshmi. She's revered pretty universally as the goddess of wealth, fortune, prosperity, but also beauty. She really embodies auspiciousness, abundance.
And the texts trace her family line. Daughter of sage Brigu, it says.
Yes, a powerful sage. And she's famously the consort, the partner of Lord Vishnu, the preserver. They form a central divine couple in many, many stories.
And there's that incredible origin story mentioned her emergence from the ocean.
The Samudra Manthana. The great churning of the cosmic ocean. Gods and demons working together, sort of, to get the nectar of immortality. And poof! She arises from the chaos.
Signifying her role as this bringer of fortune, right? Good things coming out of turmoil.
Exactly. She represents blessings emerging from primordial forces, and she's linked to other figures tied to wealth too, like Kuber.
He's the treasurer of the gods.
Sort of, yeah. King of the Yakshas. And also Indra, the king of the gods himself. And the material note, she has just so many names.
Manushri, Chakrika, Kamalika. It lists quite a few.
Reflecting all her different forms and attributes. It even mentions her being called Jaganmatha, the mother of the universe, especially in devotional hymns like the Sri Mahalakshmi Ashtakam.
Her widespread worship, all those names, it really shows how central she is as a source of blessings and prosperity in the Hindu tradition.
Definitely a hugely important figure.
Okay, next up we have one who's incredibly beloved, Hanuman.
Ah yes, Hanuman. He's described as a deity, but also a divine Vinara.
Which is often translated as like an ape-like being, but clearly divine.
That's a common interpretation, yes. But most famously, he's the fiercely devoted companion of Lord Rama. Absolutely pivotal in the Ramayana epic.
And he's a Chiranjeevi, meaning immortal.
Yes, one of the immortals, destined to live until the end of this current cosmic age, the Kali Yuga. His origin story is really rich. Traditionally, he's seen as the spiritual offspring of Vayu, the wind deity.
Vayu's divine energy was involved in his conception somehow.
That's the main tradition. Although, as the material points out, there are other views. Some see him as an incarnation of Shiva himself.
Or even like a combination of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva?
Exactly. This kind of fluidity in origin stories is quite common in these complex mythologies. It often reflects different regional beliefs or interpretations over time.
The material recounts that famous story from his childhood, mistaking the sun for a fruit.
Right. He saw the rising sun, thought it looked like a big juicy mango or something, and just leaped up to grab it. Immensely powerful, even as a child.
But this provoked Indra, the king of the gods.
Indra wasn't pleased. He struck Hanuman with his thunderbolt, the Vajra, a devastating weapon.
And it hit his jaw, broke it. That's where his name comes from, right? Hanu meaning jaw.
That's the traditional explanation, yes. The blow sent him crashing back to earth, seemingly dead.
And the consequence was huge. Vayu, his divine father, the wind god, he was furious.
Understandably, in his grief and anger, he just withdrew all the air, all the prana from the earth. Everything started suffocating.
Wow, causing immense suffering.
A planetary crisis. And this is where, according to some accounts in the material, Shiva steps in. He intervenes to resuscitate Hanuman.
Bringing him back to life.
Yes, which then prompts Vayu to restore the air. This whole dramatic episode sets the stage for Hanuman receiving blessings, boons from many gods.
Ah, right. To ensure he survives and empower him for his destiny with Rama.
Exactly. Multiple gods bestow gifts. Indra, maybe feeling a bit bad, grants that Hanuman's body will be as strong as the Vajra itself, and crucially, that the Vajra can never harm him again.
That's a pretty big deal. Immunity from the king of the gods' ultimate weapon.
It is, and others grant boons too. Agni, the fire god, makes him immune to fire. Varuna, the water god, immunity to water.
Vayu, his father, gives him speed greater than the wind itself, and immunity to wind's harm.
And Brahma, the creator god, grants him the ability to basically go anywhere, move anywhere, completely unobstructed. No barrier can stop him.
So putting all that together, incredible strength, speed, resilience, freedom of movement. He becomes the perfect agent for Rama's difficult tasks later on.
Absolutely. Which leads to that key moment in the Ramayana, finding Sita in Lanka after Ravana abducts her. He makes this incredible leap across the ocean.
But the material notes something interesting. When he finds her and offers to just carry her back, she refuses.
She does. She insists that for her honor and for the story's integrity, Rama himself must be the one to defeat Ravana and liberate her. Hanuman's role is crucial, but it has its specific place.
It really highlights those themes of duty, dharma, devotion, and the narrative structure of the epic itself. It's not just about power, but about doing things the right way.
Precisely.
Okay, and finally, let's just quickly touch on Indra again, since he played a role in Hanuman's story.
Right. Indra is a major figure, especially in the older Vedic period of Hinduism. Primarily, he's the god of rain and thunder, king of the devas, leader of the heavens.
Described as a protector, right? Especially of cows. Benevolent, generous, bringing peace, prosperity, ending droughts.
His origin is sometimes linked to being born from the mouth of Purusha, that primordial cosmic being symbolizing his authority. He's often shown fighting demons, like Vritra.
Who holds back the celestial cows, which are metaphors for rain clouds.
Exactly. Vritra holds back the waters, Indra defeats him, releases the rain, and brings life. He's seen as controlling the universe, balancing the earth, even creating rivers.
And it's interesting, the material mentions he shows up beyond Hinduism too, in Buddhism and even Cham and Chinese traditions.
Yeah, which points to that fascinating spread and adaptation of ideas across ancient Asia. His role might change, his importance might vary, but the figure himself travels.
Okay, so those are some key players from the Hindu side, rich with history, symbolism, complex roles. Now, let's shift focus to ancient Mesopotamia.
And the group that becomes really central in those later unconventional theories, the Anunnaki.
Right. The material describes them as basically a group or pantheon of deities in Mesopotamian religion. Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian texts mention them.
But there's a key point the material makes right away. The texts we have are really inconsistent about them.
Inconsistent how? Like who they were.
Yeah, exactly. Their exact number varies wildly. Sometimes it's 7 main ones, sometimes it's 600, and their precise divine job, their function. That's not always clear or consistent either.
It's not like a neat org chart of the gods.
Definitely not. Originally, it seems they were maybe heavenly deities associated with the sky, possessing immense powers. Early texts, like one